The first sound that broke the quiet of that rainy afternoon wasn't thunder. It was my granddaughter's voice, small, curious, and sharper than truth itself. "Nana, why don't we ever open that room?" she asked. The words fell into the hallway like a stone dropped into still water. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. The smell of lemon oil from the banister I had polished that morning turned bitter in the air, and the sound of the rain tapping the skylight grew louder, almost urgent. My hand brushed against my jeans, feeling the cold edge of the brass key I had kept hidden for almost a year, the same one from the night Miles disappeared on April 12th. My heart began to beat too hard, as if it already knew that question would change everything. I forced a smile, hoping she wouldn't hear the tremor in my voice. "Because some doors bite back, sweetheart," I told her, trying to sound playful. But even to my own ears, the words came out hollow. Hope's face shifted, her young eyes searching mine for the truth I couldn't give her. She had her mother's curiosity and my stubborn heart. The hallway clock ticked behind her with slow, accusing patience. I turned away and tried to focus on something ordinary, the shine on the wood, the faint smell of mothballs from the linen closet, anything that didn't lead to that door. As I walked past the stairwell, my fingers brushed against the spindle where a dog-eared index card was taped. It had been there so long the tape had yellowed around the edges. I used to glance at it every morning without really seeing it, but now the faded handwriting pulled me in. ML, April 12th. My throat tightened. I'd written it myself the day I promised never to forget. The letter seemed to stare back at me now, a small reminder that secrets don't die until you face them. Behind me, Hope's light footsteps followed, and the smell of cocoa powder drifted faintly from the kitchen. I told her gently, "Go on, make us some cocoa, honey." The words came out too quickly, too desperate, but she nodded and skipped away without question. When she was gone, I leaned against the railing and pulled the key from my pocket. Its brass surface was worn smooth from years of worry. I held it under the lantern's glow and noticed a thin crack running through the bow, a jagged little line like a scar. One of its teeth was filed short, almost as if someone had tried to erase a memory. The weight of it settled in my hand like guilt. I remembered Victor's voice the night he told me to leave that room alone. "We'll deal with storage later," he'd said calmly, while Elaine stood by the door with that polite smile that never reached her eyes. That same night, I'd heard the click of a lock and the sound of something heavy being pushed across the floor upstairs. I had pretended not to notice. Hope's voice broke through my thoughts as she came back with 2 steaming cups. Her cheeks were pink from the kitchen heat, her smile soft and certain. "Nana," she said, holding out a mug. "You look sad." I took the cocoa and forced another laugh, trying to sound light. "Just tired, darling." But she noticed everything. She always did. Her gaze drifted toward the old door again. "Can I try the key?" she asked quietly. My fingers tightened around the cup. I should have said no, but something inside me, maybe exhaustion, maybe courage, made me nod instead. I set the mug down, placed the key in her small hand, and said softly, "If we're going to open it, we do it slow. Breathe with me." I placed her hand on my chest, and together we took one deep breath in, one out. Her little shoulders rose and fell, steadying me more than she knew. We walked to the door together. The brass knob was cool under my palm, the wood around it dry and old. Hope slid the key in, her hand trembling just enough for me to feel it. There was a click, deep, low, not like any door latch I'd heard before. The sound vibrated through the floorboards and into my bones. The door gave a small shudder, as if something behind it had been waiting too long. A faint draft seeped through the edges, carrying the smell of old wood and something else, something stale and sour, like fear that had been shut away. Hope looked at me for permission, and I nodded. "Go on, sweetheart." My voice was barely a whisper. She turned the key another inch, and the door cracked open. A sliver of light from the lantern fell through the gap, catching on dust motes that hung suspended like ghosts. Inside, the air was heavy and cold, the kind of cold that clings to memory. A white sheet covered a large shape in the middle of the room. Maybe a chest, maybe something else? I stepped closer and felt the floor creak beneath my weight. The sound echoed up the stairwell, and for a heartbeat, I thought I heard a faint sigh from behind the door, as though the house itself had exhaled. I reached forward and brushed a hand over the sheet. Dust lifted into the air in soft gray swirls. Beneath it, the corner of an oak chest gleamed faintly. The brass lock was tarnished, but strong. Beside it, in the thin layer of dust, a small, pale footprint marked the wood, half faded, as if someone had stood there not long ago. My breath caught. Hope leaned close, eyes wide. "Nana, was someone here?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My hand hovered over that print, my pulse pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Then the sound came, the unmistakable rhythm of heels on hardwood. Slow, deliberate. Elaine. My whole body went cold. Her voice floated down the hall, smooth and familiar. "Grace, what are you two doing?" I froze. Hope did too. The key still hung from the lock, gleaming in the dim light. I turned toward the stairwell just as Elaine appeared, one hand on the rail, her lips curved in a half smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her gaze flicked to the outside door, then to the key, then to Hope. The air thickened between us, heavy with what wasn't being said. "Just showing Hope where stories sleep," I managed to say. My voice sounded steady, but my heart was a drum in my ears. Elaine stepped closer, the click of her heels marking each second. "Stories?" she repeated softly, tilting her head. "Is that what you call it now?" Her tone carried something sharp underneath. Fear, maybe, or anger disguised as calm. She glanced toward the banister where that old index card was taped. For a brief moment, something in her face cracked. A flicker of recognition, maybe guilt. I saw it and held her gaze until she looked away. I placed a hand on Hope's shoulder and said gently, "We'll explore another day." But even as I spoke, the door gave a soft sigh and opened another inch on its own. Elaine's breath caught. Hope's fingers tightened around mine. None of us moved. The house seemed to listen, waiting, breathing with us. Then, from somewhere deep within the walls, I heard a faint metallic click. Not loud, just enough to feel it. Like a lock being reset, or a trap remembering what it was built for. I looked at Elaine, and she looked back, her expression unreadable. Hope's small hand was still wrapped around mine, warm and steady. In that moment, I understood. The room behind us wasn't just storage. It held everything this family had buried. Truth, betrayal, maybe even justice. My pulse steadied. I let go of the door handle and turned back toward Hope. "Not today," I said quietly, "but soon." Her eyes shone with determination. Elaine opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again, her face pale. The air around us felt charged, alive. The key, still warm from our hands, glimmered faintly in the lantern light. I knew, with the kind of certainty that comes only from loss, that we would return to that door. Some rooms don't stay shut forever, not when the truth inside them still remembers your name. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The door stood open just enough to breathe, and the air that spilled out was heavy with age. The smell was a mix of starch, camphor, and dust so thick it scratched the back of my throat. Hope's small hand clung to mine, warm and certain, anchoring me to the present. A faint hum drifted from somewhere deep inside the walls, a soft electric sound that started and died almost immediately, leaving behind a silence so deep it rang in my ears. My heart beat so loud I could almost hear it echo. I told myself it was just an old wire or a fan, but part of me knew better. Some things don't wait quietly, they listen. I pushed the door wider, and the lantern light slid across the floor. The dust glittered like frost in its beam. The boards creaked beneath our feet, long and low, the way a house groans when it remembers too much. The room beyond looked frozen in time, not abandoned, but paused. The curtains were drawn, one edge, fluttering slightly from a cracked window that let in the smell of wet leaves. A bed sat neatly made, its coverlet smoothed flat, though a faint dip showed where someone had once sat often. In the far corner, an oak trunk rested under the window, the brass lock shining faintly beneath a layer of powder. Beside it, a small writing desk held an old black typewriter. Its keys were dusted but not dirty, as if someone had touched them recently. I moved forward slowly, brushing my hand along the wall. The wallpaper was pale green with faint gold lines that shimmered where the light hit. My fingertips found patches where frames had once hung, faint, square ghosts where photographs had been ripped away. Hope whispered, "It smells funny in here," and I nodded, feeling the same bitter tang of camphor, the cold scent of linen pressed too long, and underneath it, something metallic, like old pennies. It was the smell of memory left unwashed. As we stepped farther in, I noticed a thin red thread stretched across the floor near our ankles, so fine it nearly disappeared in the gloom. I crouched and traced it with my finger. It was a trip line, deliberate, tied from the leg of the trunk to a small hook near the baseboard. Whoever had set it didn't want anyone inside. My stomach twisted. I guided Hope's foot over it carefully, whispering, "Step high, sweetheart." My voice sounded foreign, like someone else was speaking through me. We crossed the line, and I went to the trunk. Its brass lock was cold to the touch, but when I pulled gently, it moved just a little, like a muscle twitching in its sleep. On the desk, a sheet of paper sat rolled into the typewriter. The words were short, centered perfectly, "For the one who dares ask." The ink was still dark, not faded at all. My chest tightened as if someone had spoken those words aloud. I looked at Hope, and she looked right back, eyes wide and clear. "It's like a clue," she whispered, and I almost smiled. Miles used to say the same thing whenever we found something strange, that the truth was never silent, only waiting for courage. I reached into my sweater pocket and pulled out the small iron key I had found earlier in a drawer downstairs. It wasn't meant for the door. It was older, heavier. I turned it in the trunk's lock, expecting resistance, but it slid in easily. Too easily. The lid creaked open on hinges that moaned like a sigh. Inside were neatly folded linens, yellowed at the corners, and under those, a stack of sealed envelopes tied together with a faded blue ribbon. I pulled one out. The handwriting across the front was unmistakable. Mine. "Property transfer, effective upon consent," it read. My breath caught as I saw the blank line waiting for my signature beneath it. Before I could speak, a faint scraping sound came from inside the trunk. I pressed down on one corner and felt it give. A hidden panel lifted open with a quiet click. Inside was a small Polaroid, edges curled from age. In the picture, Elaine stood smiling in front of a hotel door marked Room 312. Her hand rested on a suitcase, my suitcase, with my initials stamped in gold. I stared at it until the edges of the photo blurred. Hope leaned closer, voice trembling. "Nana, that's your bag." I nodded slowly, anger and realization rising together like heat. That was the same hotel where Miles was last seen. I set the photo down gently and brushed the dust away from the rest of the contents. Beneath the envelopes lay a small ledger, the kind used for bills. Inside, my own name was written again and again beside a series of numbers. Each entry was dated for the first of the month, $2,400 transferred into an account labeled household maintenance. But the account wasn't mine, it was Elaine's. My chest tightened, and I felt the blood rush to my face. 8 months of stolen money, quietly moved from my pension, hidden under the name of care. Hope's hand slipped into mine again, and her voice was small but sure. "They were taking it from you." Her words made the truth solid, heavy enough to hold, sharp enough to cut. I rose and began to pace the small space, my boots leaving clean tracks through the dust. Each footprint looked too bright, too fresh, as if the room itself didn't want us here. The air felt close, thick with what had been hidden too long. The curtain by the window moved again, brushing lightly against the frame, and the faint patter of rain returned on the roof above us. I looked down at the typewriter again, reading the single sentence over and over, for the one who dares ask. I understood now. Someone had left this for me, or for whoever came after me with enough courage to open the door. Then I heard them, footsteps on the porch outside, slow, measured, unmistakable. A man's voice followed, calm and controlled. "Elaine, hurry up!" Victor. My pulse quickened, a hot flash of fear running through me. I motioned for Hope to stay quiet. Together we moved quickly. She stuffed the envelopes and the Polaroid into her backpack while I tightened the ribbon on the stack we left behind, trying to make the trunk look untouched. My fingers shook so hard I nearly dropped the key. The floor creaked downstairs. Elaine's voice floated up, smooth as silk. "Grace, open up. We're taking that box back down." I froze where I stood. Hope's eyes were wide, her chest rising fast. The sound of their footsteps grew louder, closer. I pressed my finger to my lips and pointed toward the rug near the trunk. Beneath it was a narrow space, just enough for us to crouch behind. We slid into the shadow, pulling the edge of the rug back in place. Dust filled my nose, making my eyes water. I could hear the knob turn, slow and deliberate. My heart pounded so loud it seemed to fill the whole room. The door creaked open, spilling faint light across the floor. I could see their silhouettes, Elaine's sharp posture, Victor's broad frame behind her. They stepped inside, voices low. "It's still here," Victor murmured. Elaine's heels clicked softly as she moved toward the trunk. I held my breath. Every muscle in my body screamed to stay still. Hope's small fingers dug into my sleeve. The air was heavy with dust and the faint scent of metal from the typewriter ribbon. They stood for a moment, whispering to each other, then turned to leave. The floor groaned again as their weight shifted. When the sound of their steps faded down the hall, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. My body ached from staying so still. Hope looked up at me, her face pale but determined. "What do we do now?" she whispered. I met her eyes and felt the steadiness return to my voice. "Now we make sure they never touch what's ours again." The hush of the room settled around us once more. I reached out and touched the trunk, tracing the small crack along its edge. This was no longer a secret. It was evidence. Truth waiting for daylight. The dust on the floor no longer looked random. It formed faint, swirling patterns, the shape of every footstep we'd taken to get here. Every mark was proof that we had finally walked into what they'd tried to bury. The door rattled once more in its frame, as if warning us not to linger. Hope rose beside me, her small shoulders squared. I brushed the dust from her hair and smiled faintly. "You did well, my brave girl." She smiled back, clutching her backpack tight. Together we turned toward the hall. The house felt alive now, aware of us, maybe even grateful that the silence had been broken. I could feel the storm outside quieting, the rain softening against the roof. The air had shifted, lighter, though still trembling with what was to come. And then, just before we stepped out, I heard that sound again. A faint, metallic click from deep within the wall. It was quiet but certain, like something mechanical resetting itself, waiting for the next move. Hope met my eyes. I knew she'd heard it too. Elaine's voice called faintly from below, calm but sharp. "Grace, come out and face your family." I took Hope's hand, her small fingers curling into mine. My heartbeat slowed, steady and sure now. I whispered, "We choose when to fight." The door swung inward on its own. Company at the door. We pad down the stairs, hearts hammering, and the front lock rattles under Victor's tug. Cold air and gasoline drift from his coat as he steps inside. Elaine stands by the table, her smile wide and too bright for comfort, like sunshine through poisoned glass. She sets a banker's box on my dining table as if it were a bouquet. The lid clicks, echoing in the quiet. She croons, "Surprise wellness check," eyes glinting with something sharp. Inside rests a manila file stamped April 12th, edges crisp as a new wound. I grip Hope's hand as I slide chairs closer. The kettle hisses on the stove, the citrus bite of soap from my dishcloth, and the soft scrape of folder tabs reach my ears. Every household sound feels loaded, as if the walls themselves are eavesdropping. Elaine lifts the top folder, peels back the tab, and taps a label. Probate, Miles Langston. The handwriting is hers, not the clerk's, slanted, deliberate. My pulse roars in my throat. Hope watches me, silent and pale, her eyes reflecting my own shock. Victor crosses to the counter, uncaps 2 pens like a stagehand. "Mom, we're updating your will. Simple signatures," he says smoothly. I swallow against the lump in my throat and glance at the uncapped steel tips glinting. They look ready to bite. I breathe slowly. "I'll sign after tea," I say, forcing calm into my voice. Elaine cocks her head, watching my hands rest on the table. She hums in agreement and reaches inside the box. Under stacks of forms, something metallic peeks out. A corner of a Harbor House keycard slips free, the room number faint, 312. My heart stutters. That card sealed the door where Dust and Secret slept. I see Elaine's lips tighten just before she murmurs, "Oh, that must be from storage." Hope tilts her head. "What's that, Nana?" She points at the card with wide curiosity. I force a smile, pat her shoulder, and mutter, "Old receipts," though the card's edges are too pristine to be forgotten relics. My gaze flicks to Victor's wristwatch. 11:30 a.m. sharply, as punctual as payday. He breathes in sync with the second hand's click. I realize then that every corner of our home has become a stage, every object a prop in their design. I pour tea into delicate cups and place one before Victor. Steam swirls between us like ghostly spectators. Elaine leans over, voice soft. "You'll want to read everything carefully, Grace." She brushes forms and cards aside, revealing another document beneath. I pick up the deed photocopy. My name should read Grace Langston, owner, but the line is redacted, blank white space mocking me. My chest tightens with betrayal. I glance at Elaine, her eyes shimmer with practiced sympathy and concealed triumph. Hope sips her cocoa, oblivious to the storm building. I feel a twist in my gut as Elaine reaches for the photocopy. "Just sign here, here, and here," she instructs, tapping spots with a manicured fingertip. Each tap sounds like a promise broken. My pen hovers, indecision raging. I taste the metal of the pen's cap and remember the trunk hidden upstairs, the ledger, the Polaroid, the typewriter's challenge. Their evidence waits, but so do risks I cannot yet name. Victor clears his throat. "Time is money, Mom." His voice is polite but firm, the edge of a blade hidden beneath courtesy. I glance at Hope, whose cheeks have flushed rose. She watches me, trusting me to protect her. A bead of sweat slides down my spine. I cradle the pen, ready to sign away my name, my rights. Elaine's lips part in a soft smile of assurance that jars against everything I know. Micro reveal. Her knuckles blanch as she grips the edge of the box. Suddenly, Elaine's phone screen glows on the table. A new text, Harbor 312 at 3. "Bring her." She flips the screen face down, but not before I catch the message. My breath stalls. Hope's small hand presses mine, trembling. Elaine's eyes flick between me and the card. Guilt, or is it fear, dances across her features for a heartbeat. Victor approaches, his presence heavy as a storm cloud. He grips the second pen and offers it to me without a word. I pick up my cup and lift the porcelain rim to my lips. The tea tastes bitter now, steeped in deceit. I set it down, my resolve hardening like clay. "I'll need to review these with my attorney first," I say softly, voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. Elaine's brows lift in surprise. Victor's jaw clenches. They share a glance loaded with calculation. The air crackles with tension. Elaine straightens and says, "Of course, but the sooner, the better." As they speak, I sense Hope inch closer, courage blooming behind her wide eyes. My decision crystallizes. No more silent compliance. I slide the deed back into its folder, pen untouched, and stand. Elaine's phone vibrates again on the table. I don't need to read the message to know its intent. Victor's gaze hardens. The box remains open between us, filled with their demands. I reach for Hope's hand, feeling her small palm flutter with hope and fear. The only question now is which door will open next, theirs or ours. The trunk's breath. They told us they'd step out to the car, and Hope and I sprinted up the stairs, breath misting in the cool hush of the landing. My heart hammered as we reached the trunk, its dark wood pocked with scratches I'd never noticed before. Hope knelt beside it, eyes wide and shining with both dread and determination. The field key slipped into the lock and turned smoothly, as though the latch had been waiting for this moment. Inside, ledgers lay piled next to hotel receipts, yellowed at the edges, and a velvet pouch nestled on top. I lifted it gently, feeling the weight of secrets against my fingertips. Ringing the pouch open, I revealed 2 rings, one worn and simple, the other ornate and unfamiliar. My breath caught when I spotted the engraving inside the stranger's ring, ML, HH312, the same April date from the index card. My pulse thundered at the thought of our shared clue. The air smelled of cedar oil from the old dresser nearby, mixed with the dry rasp of ledger pages as I thumbed through. I lifted the ornate ring and pressed it to my tongue, testing its goldness in an old habit born of lean times. The metal tasted real, cold against my skin. I unfolded a ledger and scanned the columns. Monthly transfers to Elaine V. Langston, labeled Household Management. Each sum matched my pension down to the dollar, $20,400 on the first of every month for 8 months straight. My stomach twisted as betrayal turned to clarity. Hope pointed to a Polaroid tucked inside the pouch. Elaine laughing in Harbor House, room 312, beside a man whose face was cut from the print. The paper crackled beneath my fingers. Her laughter froze in my ears as I realized the photo was proof of everything. I dug deeper and found a carbon copy of a power of attorney I'd never signed. My own signature lay there, but the G in Grace was wrong, looped too tightly, a forgery in plain sight. I swallowed, tasting dust and anger in one sharp gulp. Hope's voice trembled. "Nana, is this theft?" I closed my eyes and breathed, reminding myself to stay steady. "It is a map," I said softly, feeling both mother and child within me, guiding us through the maze of lies. The typewriter's keys beckoned from the desk. I climbed over the trunk and settled on the edge, pecking out a line on fresh paper. "If you plan to move me, I will arrive first." My fingers paused, trembling at the promise in the words. A sudden crunch of gravel stopped my breath. From the foyer below, Victor called up, "Mom, ready to take a little drive?" His voice sounded casual, but I heard the steel beneath. This was no benign outing. I pocketed the power of attorney and slid the Polaroid into Hope's palm. She folded it carefully, understanding its gravity without a word. My fingers brushed the ornate ring, and I slipped it onto my pinky for safekeeping. Cedar dust motes danced in the slant of afternoon light. I let Hope stand and brush her knees off. We exchanged one steady look, equal parts fear, fury, and resolve. Together we faced the open trunk, its breath still warm with hidden truths. My mind raced through options. I could confront them now, evidence in hand, but the risk of burning everything too soon loomed. The ledger pages whispered of months of theft, and I felt the surge of righteous anger. Hope squared her shoulders. "What's our plan?" she asked, voice small but fierce. I traced the engraved date on the ornate ring and nodded. "We gather more, we wait until we're safe." Footsteps thundered up the stairs. I dropped onto my heels and motioned Hope behind the trunk's side. In that instant, the room felt alive, witness to our rebellion, ready to guard our secret. The door swung open, and Victor's silhouette filled the frame, broad-shouldered and unreadable. Elaine peered over his shoulder, lips curved into that practiced smile of hers. They carried that banker's box once more. Victor's gaze flicked to the open trunk. His jaw clenched. Elaine's eyes narrowed. For a heartbeat, I sensed hesitation, weakness in their armor. Then they forced their masks back on and stepped inside. Hope pressed closer, breath warm against my arm. I watched Victor's eyes slide over the scattered ledgers and the velvet pouch on the desk. He reached for the box with a forced calm, but his knuckles blanched. Elaine cleared her throat. Found something. Interesting? She asked, voice syrupy. I rose, dusting my jeans off, heart flaring with both fear and newfound strength. I met her gaze, the ornate ring cold at my finger. I found everything, I said, voice steady, echoing in the still air. The hush that followed felt like the calm before the storm. In that silence, I understood that this trunk's breath had awoken something in me. The next move would decide who controlled our family story and who would pay the price for betrayal. Harbor House. I say yes, my voice echoing in the car's confined space, and slide the Polaroid and ornate ring into my cardigan pocket. Hope tucks the ledgers deep under her jacket, fingers trembling as she secures evidence of Elaine's betrayal. Outside, Victor slips behind the wheel, and the car's engine hums through the seats like a warning. Gasoline clings to the air as we pull onto the wet pavement. The seatbelt rubs my collarbone with every turn, reminding me how tightly I'm bound in this scheme. I count Elaine's measured breaths beside me, each inhale practiced, each exhale controlled. I wonder if she dreams of freedom or simply of control. A soft beep alerts me to Victor's navigation screen. Harbor House, 5 miles ahead. He doesn't bother to hide the GPS destination, as if the building itself summons us. My pulse jumps at the sight of the hotel's neon sign slicing through the drizzle. Hope glances up, eyes wide, and swallows, tiny and brave, in the back seat. We step into the lobby, the marble chill seeping through my soles. The desk clerk's gaze flickers to Elaine, recognition and fear dancing in her pupils, then darts away. I sense sympathy in the woman's trembling smile, as if she's witnessed too many secrets waltz through these doors. The espresso grinder hums behind the desk, drowning out my racing thoughts. A spray of cold air drifts in from the revolving door, carrying the tang of seawater beyond. I place my palm on the slick counter, feeling the polished surface smooth beneath my fingertips. Elaine slides a clipboard forward, her nails clicking on the pen's cap. "Sign the check-in liability," she instructs, all sweetness and steel. I lift the pen and write Grace Myers, my backup name, a shield I'd hoped never to use. The signature feels foreign on the page. The desk phone rings. The clerk's head dips behind the partition as she covers the mouthpiece. Her voice, low and urgent, reaches only my ears. "Room 312 reported missing property last week." My stomach lurches. The date on the slip matches the ledger's transfers and the spindle card downstairs. We glide toward the elevators, the waiting doors breathing open like a maw. Inside, the walls are etched with ocean blue patterns that swirl as the car ascends. Each ding of the floors feels like a heartbeat, counting down to confrontation. In the hallway, the air shifts. Salt tang from the open windows mingles with bleach from housekeeping. The carpet, plush underfoot, muffles our steps. At door 312, Elaine's keycard glides through the reader, but fails to unlock. A mechanical beep of refusal sends a thrill of triumph through me. I slip the ornate ring from my finger and hold it against the reader. The metal glints beneath the panel's light, and with a soft click, the latch disengages. Elaine's gasp echoes off the corridor walls, her composure slipping for the first time. The door swings open to reveal dim lamplight and shadows dancing on the walls. I step inside first, inhaling the mingled scents of stale ocean air and disinfectant. The room feels frozen in time, every detail poised for revelation. Within, scattered hotel receipts lie atop the desk where I first found them. A faint puddle of spilled champagne glitters by the minibar. I see the typewriter sheet waiting in its roller, untouched since our last visit. The silence hums like static before a storm. A sudden shuffle behind me makes me spin. A man steps forward, tall, lean, face etched with fatigue and disbelief. "You're late, Elaine," he says, voice low. Then his eyes widen as they find me. "Grace?" His single word lands like a verdict. The door clicks shut behind him, sealing us within this hidden witness box. I step into the room beside Hope and freeze. Miles, my brother, long declared dead, stands in the lamplight, thin and gray, his eyes wet with relief. My knees buckle, and Hope's small hand tightens around mine like a lifeline. For a heartbeat, I believe the nightmare is over. Hope exhales in my ear, tension slipping away. I step forward, arms open, and Miles wraps me in a trembling hug that smells of antiseptic and old sorrow. We hold each other, 3 hearts colliding in a moment of pure, unguarded joy. Then he pulls back, voice low. "Elaine said you agreed to everything," he whispers, tilting his head to the table. He holds out his phone, screen glowing, a grainy video of me, voice clipped into consenting, "Yes." My blood runs cold, my own voice forging chains around me. I back away, mouth dry. The air tastes of cedar from the trunk below and antiseptic from miles of hospital halls. I drop to the floor beside Miles as he sits, wool blanket pooling around his legs. The scratch of fabric against his skin echoes my tightening panic. Miles points to a stitched scar on his wrist and the faded clinic wristband still wrapped tight. "They hid me," he rasps. "Staged my funeral, drained your savings for my care." The ledger pages I stashed in my skirt burn behind my eyes with every stolen dollar. Hope kneels beside me. "Nana, they lied about his death?" Her voice cracks. I swallow, tasting bitter regret. "They lied," I confirm. The room's hush screams with every secret they buried here. Miles pulls a Polaroid from his coat pocket, Elaine glowing beside a stranger in Harbor House's hallway. The photo's torn edges mirror the rip in our family. I recognize a second, micro reveal. The date scrawled on the back, April 12th, the same date that launched our search. For a moment, I see a path to victory. Expose them now. Reclaim what's ours. My chest swells with hope and adrenaline. I stand, voice unsteady but fierce. We go downstairs. We call the police. Then I notice. The safe built into the closet wall stands wide open, its pockets drained of all evidence. The ledgers and the Polaroid I kept upstairs, gone. Someone beat us here, erased our leverage. My heart caves in as I realize our celebration was built on a lie of security. Hope's hand shakes on my arm. I force a calm smile I don't feel. "We adapt," I murmur, recalling routes through the back stairwell. Miles nods, eyes hardening with survival. His whispered next micro-reveal cuts sharper than any blade. "They filed a DNR in your name last night. Victor signed it." I taste copper and fury. That detail sinks like a stone in my gut. A DNR means they plan to move me, make me helpless, erase my fight. The bond of blood is toxic here. My own planter's hand turned surgeon, cutting life short. Elaine's voice drifts up from downstairs, sweet, insistent. "Grace, come rest. You look exhausted." I hear Victor's footsteps padding up the hall behind her. They think I'm too stunned to resist. Hope pulls me toward the window. I press my palm against the cold glass, candlelight flickering from below. "We need a new plan," I whisper, voice raw. Every ruled line of my life has been redrafted without my consent. Miles lifts his head, shrouded in resolve. "I can testify," he says softly. "They can't silence us both." His scarred wrist glints in the moonlight. "But we'll need more than words." I step away from the window, resolve cracking open in me like dawn. The thrill of false victory drains as I sense the real battle is just beginning. I press my hand to the spot on the table where the DNR lies, daring it to explain itself. Soft clicks, like locks resetting, echo from the hallway door. My breath catches. Elaine's silhouette appears in the frame, keys in hand. Her eyes flick to Miles, then to me, and widen with both triumph and trepidation. My heart pounds like a war drum as I gather Hope and Miles close. The room's shadows swirl around us, a silent audience to our confrontation. I meet Elaine's gaze, feeling the weight of every secret she ever kept. Then from behind Elaine, Victor appears, voice low. "Time to come downstairs, Mom." His calm belies the threat beneath. I step forward, chin raised. "Not until you open that door," I say, nodding to the closet where their truth hides. Hope's breath is hot against my wrist. Miles stands behind me, braced for battle. Elaine's faintest shudder betrays her poise. She reaches for the closet latch. And as she does, the final micro-reveal cracks the silence. The panel beside the safe, once hidden, pops open on its own, revealing a sealed envelope addressed to me. Elaine freezes, her hand inches from the latch, as I move toward that envelope, knowing it holds the key to turning their betrayal into justice. Through the peephole, I catch a sliver of a face. Linda Voss, the bank notary who notarized my last signature. Her eyes flick toward the knob, then down to a folded note. My pulse spikes, fear uncoiling in my chest. She slides the paper under the crack. "Check your tea." My hand trembles as I scoop up the kettle from the counter and tip it into the sink. A white shimmer coils at the bottom, like a warning carved in salt. I taste metal at the back of my throat. The hiss of the faucet mingles with a sharp almond scent from crushed marzipan candy Elaine left on the table. I cradle the warm porcelain mug under my palm, remembering calm mornings before betrayal. Elaine's laugh cuts through me. "Paranoid much?" Her voice is sweet poison. Victor stands behind her, jaw tight, unable to meet my gaze. Guilt flickers in his eyes before he steels himself. Miles clutches a locker key, stamped Harbor B12. He lifts it like a lifeline, voice shaky. Linda slipped it to me when Elaine wasn't looking. A bead of sweat drips down his temple. My phone buzzes. An unknown number flashes. Linda's text. "Lobby camera, 2:15. Watch." My breath hitches. Every second stretches. We crowd around the old CRT TV on the credenza. The grainy hotel security feed flickers, Elaine and Victor hauling bankers' boxes into Harbor B's shadowed corridor at exactly 2:15 last Thursday. Their laughter echoes on a silent tape. I close my eyes, feeling trauma tremble through my bones. When I open them, I see Hope's face, pale with resolve. I slip the DNR and ornate ring into my pocket. Hope tucks the keycard beside Miles's B12. A crash rings from the foyer. Glass breaking downstairs? My heart thunders. I whisper, "We leave now." Miles nods, and we slink toward the fire exit, each step measured. The corridor's carpet swallows our footsteps. Walls sweat with stale cigarette smoke and distant echoes. My fingers graze the painted rail, tracking chipped edges like a road map of past escapes. Behind us, the door handle rattles. The manager's voice drifts. "Police are on their way." Panic claws at my ribs. I taste dust and adrenaline. I pull Hope close, inhaling the faint scent of lavender from her hair. She whispers, "What do we do?" I swallow down terror. "We trust Linda." My voice is steadier than I feel. At the stairwell landing, Miles pauses at a narrow window. Outside, a patrol car idles beneath flickering streetlights. The officer's silhouette is rigid against the rain-slicked pavement. I lift the window latch carefully. The night air rushes in. Diesel fumes, wet asphalt, freedom's promise. I slip through, landing softly on the fire escape. Hope follows, her frame small against the metal ladder. Miles hesitates, then climbs after us. My knees shake, but I keep moving. One breath, one rung, one heartbeat at a time. Behind us, footsteps pound on the stairwell. Elaine's cry echoes, "Grace, you can't run forever!" I press my ear to the wall. Her desperation almost breaks my resolve. At the alley's base, Hope skids to a stop and looks up at me. "Where now?" she asks, voice fierce despite the quiver. I point toward the old courthouse across the street, our next refuge. We dart across wet cobblestones, jackets flapping like wings. The patrol car's siren wails as we round the corner. I taste triumph and fear tangled on my tongue. Inside the courthouse's marble foyer, Fluorescent lights hum overhead. We press ourselves against a pillar, chests heaving. Miles holds out a crumpled Polaroid, Elaine's face, half shrouded in shadow, and my own signature forging our bond of lies. Hope grips it and says, "We have what we need." Her words land like a benediction. I nod, feeling the weight of justice settling into my bones. The hush here is different, sacred, solemn. I draw in the cold air scented with floor polish and history. I realize this is where we'll turn the tide. My phone buzzes again. Linda's text. "Meet me in Judge Hall B now." I slip it from my pocket, heart swelling with hope. I take Hope's hand, Miles's shoulder. "Let's finish this," I whisper, and we step forward into the echoing corridor, ready for the reckoning that awaits. Ahead, the heavy oak doors to Hall B loom. Behind them, truth and vindication await, but so does our greatest trial. We slip down the fire stairs, Hope's small frame close behind me, as the emergency light flickers like a failing pulse. My lungs burn with each breath, heart drumming against concrete walls. The distant scrape of boots spur us onward. At the basement's threshold, damp concrete and bleach assault my senses. I taste iron, fear's flavor, on my tongue. The stale air clings to skin, each exhale a ghost in the gloom. I find locker B12 and fit Miles's key into the padlock. It clicks free with a reluctant groan, as if protesting years of neglect. Dust motes swirl at our feet. The door swings open to reveal a portable drive, yellowing original deeds, and a voice pen blinking red like a trapped heartbeat. My fingers hover before touching the pen's button. I press play, and Elaine's voice spills out. "Once she's signed, move her to the care home under my name." Victor's calm reply follows. "She won't fight." Rage and relief war in my chest. Laundry machines hum nearby, their mechanical drone echoing off the walls. The locker's cold steel bites into my palm. The papery edges of the deeds nick my fingers as I separate them. Miles breathes Michelle Tran's name, the reporter-turned-attorney who helped Mrs. Hart, and I recognize hope in his eyes. The world shrinks to this moment of possibility. My phone buzzes. I attach the security footage from the lobby and the deeds scanned on the drive, then hit send to Michelle. Anxiety spikes as the email slips into the digital ether. A reply pings almost instantly. "Come to the courthouse annex, 4 p.m., emergency injunction." The words flash on my screen like salvation. I clutch the phone as if it were a lifeline. Hope squeezes my hand, voice trembling but fierce. "We can do this, Nana." Her faith anchors me, calm seeping into my veins. I nod, swallowing bile and disbelief. I gather the documents, tucking deeds into my cardigan pocket and the drive into Miles's backpack. The voice pen goes safely in Hope's jacket. We turn toward the exit. A rat scurries past, vanishing into the shadows. My pulse jags. I realize how deep the silence runs. Every step is a confession, every breath a vow of defiance. The metal stair railing is slick under my palm as we ascend. I taste salt and sweat in the air, anticipation thick and heavy. Each footfall echoes like a promise. Above, the lobby lights glare into the stairwell. I pause at the top, scanning for guards. Only an empty foyer and the revolving door's slow spin greet me. We slip past the desk, adrenaline humming beneath our skin. The clerk glances up, but I hold her gaze and offer a small, grateful nod. She steps aside. Outside, a siren wafts through the glass doors. The drizzle on the pavement glistens under streetlights. We merge with the night, shapes in motion. Miles presses close and whispers plans for shelter at Michelle's office. I commit her address to memory, each syllable a lifeline. Hope repeats it softly. I glance at the courthouse annex across the street, its windows dark, but its promise bright. The building stands as a beacon in the storm. As we reach the curb, I feel Victor's voice boom behind us. "Mom, don't make a scene." His words crash over me like cold water. I turn, heart hammering, and see him framed in lobby glass, eyes burning with fury and fear. Elaine stands at his side, guilt flickering in her gaze. Hope grips my arm. They'll follow, she breathes. My chest tightens, but I force calm. We'll be inside the annex before they can move. I step into the rain-slick street, lead my family toward the courthouse's silent doors. Each stride carries us closer to justice and further from betrayal. Behind us, footsteps thunder on the pavement, security and sirens converging. The chase begins in earnest. Inside the annex doors, fluorescent light floods our path. I press Hope and Miles to keep moving. Tomorrow, the court will find our evidence. But tonight, under the hum of overhead bulbs, I whisper a vow. No more secrets. No more locked doors. And as the annex's heavy doors close behind us, I know the real battle for my life has only just begun. Victor's silhouette presses against the glass. He's unstoppable, and he's coming for us. The courthouse annex smells like floor polish and old paper. We pass through the metal detector, and my ornate ring sets it chirping insistently. Hope clings to my skirt as the guard waves us through, eyes flicking to the keycard in her hand. Michelle Tran appears at the end of the hall, sharp eyes beneath calm hands. She closes the heavy oak door behind us and says, "You've been robbed, Grace, but we can stop the bleed." Her voice is quiet steel. She thumbs through the deed folder on the table. A micro reveal. Transfer schedules align with Victor's payroll dates, perfectly timed withdrawals that drained my savings each month. My stomach twists. Echoing footsteps patter down the corridor. The vending machine hums stale coffee steam. I feel the textured manila folders beneath my palm, rough edges whispering of hidden truths. Linda Voss appears beside Michelle, silent and steady. She places a notary logbook on the desk, Elaine's forged entries laid bare in looping script. Guilt flickers in Linda's eyes as she watches me read. I lift the affidavit pen with shaking fingers. My wrist aches from hours of tension, but my voice steadies as I read it aloud. Hope records on her phone, each word etched into digital memory. Michelle pauses, then flips to another document. Micro reveal. A care home contract predated for tonight. My forged consent spelled doom in legal jargon. I hear my own signature mocking me. Footsteps slow in the hall as the judge enters. He scans the exhibits, deeds, notary logs, the voice pen recording Elaine's plot. He clears his throat and announces a temporary freeze on all transfers. He orders the police to secure room 312 and my house. Relief blossoms in my chest, false calm settling like dust. Hope exhales beside me, eyes bright with cautious hope. The judge rises and departs. Silence fills the room, a sacred hush after a storm. I rest my palms on the polished table, tasting triumph and exhaustion in one breath. Then an officer steps in, hat tight in his hands. He clears his throat. There's been an accident at Harbor House. My heart lurches. Michelle's eyes snap to mine. The room tilts as every secret we unearthed threatens to drown in flames and U-turns. Hope grips my hand. I swallow hard, tasting dust and determination. The battle moves back to the scene of betrayal, where truth and danger collide again. We race back through the lobby. Yellow tape threads across the entrance like a warning banner. Alarms still roar inside, their shrill cries bouncing off marble pillars. My heart hammers as I clutch Hope's hand, the ring heavy in my pocket. The manager meets us at the foot of the stairs, eyes wide. "A small fire started in 312's trash can," he says, voice trembling. "Sprinklers drowned the room, many papers ruined." My lungs tighten at the thought of lost evidence. I push past him into the hallway. The wet carpet smells of singed fibers and bleach. A siren wails outside, low and relentless. Cold mist from overhead sprinklers drips down my neck, turning gooseflesh into goosebumps. I step toward the charred doorway, doubt flickering through me. Was I set up to look like the arsonist? The thought tastes bitter, like burnt toast stuck in my throat. I swallow hard, eyes stinging. Linda appears beside me, breath catching. "I saw Elaine in a gray coat," she whispers, voice tight. My mind rewinds to the security clip, ring glinting under flickering lights. Misdirection, Michelle warned, is a favorite strategy. The voice pen slips from Hope's pocket. Miles lifts it, pressing play. Elaine's hushed tone slices through the haze. Burn what you can. My stomach twists. I realize the blaze was meant to destroy more than paper. Hope crouches and plucks a charred index card from the ash. ML, April 12th. Its scorched edges match the one beneath my banister. My pulse jumps. Our breadcrumbs have been scattered and scorched. Michelle's heels click on the corridor tile as she arrives with Detective Hall. We've secured the rest of the footage, she announces. My relief wavers when Hall's eyes lock on me, sympathy and suspicion mingled in his gaze. Detective Hall steps close, voice low. Mrs. Langston, I need you to come with me, for your safety. His hand hovers at my elbow. Behind him, the hall's damp shadows seem to shift, waiting for my choice. Police escort us through the front door, officers in blue shoe covers moving straight to the sealed room. Dust prints bloom under their flashlights, tracing our past trespasses. My heart pounds as every footprint feels like judgment. Ozone hums from their equipment, a sharp undercurrent to the faint cinnamon scent drifting from my kitchen. I stand barefoot on the hallway runner's soft nap, grounding myself in the familiar. Fear and hope tangle in my chest. An officer lifts the mattress. His flashlight beam slices through the darkness. Micro reveal. A micro camera pointed directly at my writing desk, its lens dusty but intact. He removes it and tucks it into an evidence bag. I taste metal on my tongue as Detective Hall lifts the monitor tablet recovered from Victor's car. The screen flickers with live feeds from that hidden camera, months of my private moments recorded without consent. Next, he examines the typewriter on the desk. The ribbon carries my name typed 100 times, each iteration practiced for forged letters I never wrote. My breath catches at the sight of my own stolen voice. Hall turns the DNR in his hands. His mouth tightens. We've seen this play before, he says quietly. The room tilts, his words both condemnation and comfort, acknowledging our struggle. Another micro reveal. In the trunk lining beneath the floorboards, an officer finds a false bottom. Deposit slips spill out, stamped with Elaine's maiden name and routing numbers leading straight to her hidden account. Miles collapses into a folding chair, wheezing. Hope kneels beside him, pressing a cup of water to his lips while cider-sweet tears rim her eyes. We feel like a family again, patched with tape and shared trauma. I take a shaky breath and tell the officer about the red trip thread across the doorway. He nods with respect. A simple alarm shows clear intent to trap. My chest rises with relief at the validation. Behind us, the soft click of evidence bags zipping closed echoes. Michelle flips through her notes, satisfied that every micro-reveal has been documented. Her calm presence is a lifeline in this storm. Light shifts as another officer sweeps the room for fingerprints. Every surface gleams under scrutiny: floorboards, doorknobs, the typewriter keys. I feel our secrets leave the walls, carried away into official logs. Hope stands, brushing dust from her knees. She looks small against the clinical scene, but her eyes burn with purpose. What happens now? She asks. I pull her close, voice steady despite the tremor inside. Detective Hall meets my gaze. Now we secure evidence and arrest the suspects. You're safe. His tone promises both closure and a beginning, justice in motion at last. I exhale, tasting freedom and fear intertwined. The false calm before collapse has broken. Now real relief settles like soft sunlight through dusty windows. A radio crackles. Units to 5th and Pine. Traffic stop on a silver Accord. Subjects in custody. Relief floods me at the confirmation that Victor and Elaine will face consequences. Hope claps her hands once, a small sound in the hush. Miles exhales sharply, then coughs, but his eyes are clear, grateful for rescue. We stand together, 3 survivors in a room reborn. Michelle gathers us near the desk, spreading the documents for one final review. The deeds, the DNR, the camera feeds, proof of every betrayal. Each paper feels like a victory flag. I trace my finger along the deed file where my name has been restored. The signature line glows with legitimacy now, my rightful claim to home and story. Linda steps forward, placing the notary logbook in my hands. Her eyes shine with unshed tears. "You have the truth on your side," she whispers. I nod, voice thick. "And you." Sunlight slices through the curtained window, illuminating dust motes in lazy beams. For a moment, the room feels sacred, a sanctuary cleansed of lies. I lean back against the desk, bare feet propped on the runner. The soft nap cushions me, its threads weaving comfort into my bones. Hope perches on the edge of the trunk, legs swinging. "Will they pay for what they did?" she asks, voice small but clear. I wrap her in my arms and whisper, "Yes, sweet girl, they will." Miles stands, stretching the sleep from his bones. He picks up the voice pen, presses play, and lets Elaine's confession fill the air one last time. "I will destroy her life," she had said. Now her own words bind her. Detective Hall flips the camera to me. "How do you want to proceed?" His professionalism steadies me. I inhale the cinnamon scent of my kitchen drifting here, anchoring me to home. I straighten, meeting every gaze. "We file charges," I say. "I want a public hearing." My voice echoes with authority I never knew I had. Hope beams up at me. Miles nods approvingly. Michelle smiles, a mentor proud of her student. Even Detective Hall lets a small smile escape. Outside, the sirens wane. The world resets beyond these walls. I feel the weight of months lift, replaced by the steady pulse of justice. In this cleaned room, I place the ornate ring back on my finger. Its cool gold feels like a promise. I twist it, catching the light of truth in its facets. Hope leans in and whispers, "What will you say?" I brush hair from her brow. "I'll tell the truth," I answer simply. "Our story deserves to be heard." She nods, satisfied. I run a hand through the typewriter's keys, grateful that my forged voice can finally rest. Detective Hall clears his throat. "We'll reconvene in your living room tomorrow to secure your safety plan." His caution warms me like a blanket. I glance at the micro camera now unplugged and silent. "Thank you," I murmur, as though it were the instrument of our salvation. He nods. "You did what was needed." His respect settles over me like a benediction. I look around the room, senses alive to every scent, cinnamon, ozone, cleaned wood, and feel a quiet awe. This space once trapped secrets, now it shines with truth. Hope tugs at my sleeve. "Moments change everything, don't they?" she says softly. My heart swells as I gather her in my arms. I whisper into her hair, "Yes, love, moments do change everything." As we step out, I realize the room holds one final secret, an envelope pinned inside the typewriter ribbon, addressed to me in Miles's shaky handwriting. "Read this before you sleep." Next morning, I step into the packed courtroom, marble walls humming with strangers' curiosity, and the tension of unseen verdicts waiting to fall around us. The gavel lies on the bench before the judge, an unspoken promise that justice will speak today. My heart pounds, each beat echoing in my ears like a countdown. Michelle stands first, laying out our evidence with precise calm, the voice pen whispering Elaine's confession, the lobby footage capturing their deceit, the original deeds stitching together my ownership, and the notary logs unmasking forged signatures. Each exhibit clicks into place under the judge's steady gaze, building an ironclad case. The gavel thuds twice, sharp as a heartbeat, drawing attention back to the bench. The air smells of toner from fresh copies mingled with polished wood, and I brace my palms on the slick witness rail, grounding myself against the swirl of emotion. Linda Voss takes the stand next. Her voice is steady as she recounts Elaine's household management withdrawals and describes the drugged tea served in room 312. A hush sweeps the gallery. Every person leans forward as if pulled by the gravity of her words. Victor shuffles his feet behind the defense table, face pale and eyes hollow. Under oath, he admits he went, along with the scheme to keep the house. His voice breaks on the word mom, and I taste a bitter relief, his confession carving a path toward my vindication. The judge reviews the evidence, gavel poised above the bench. He announces a freeze on all accounts, voids the DNR that loomed over my life, and orders charges of attempted exploitation and insurance fraud. Relief washes over me in jagged waves. This moment feels both end and beginning. A care home nurse steps forward with a folded card. She reads the inscription aloud, "For the one who dares ask." It's from Miles, dated months earlier, his secret breadcrumb tucked away for this precise moment. I hold the card against my heart, its paper edges trembling in my fingers. I rise to speak. My voice echoes through the solemn chamber. I was not confused. I was not alone. I was awake. Each word falls like a verdict of my own resilience, reclaiming voice and agency in the face of betrayal. As murmurs ripple through the audience, the bailiff leans toward the judge and slips him a folded note. The judge's eyes narrow as he reads, "Harbor House records indicate a third conspirator." The room exhales in collective tension. Another shadowed player emerges from their web. My breath catches. The stakes climb once more as unseen hands reach for control. Yet I stand taller, anchored by truth, and the faces of Hope and Miles beside me. Behind the defense table, Victor's lips press into a thin line, Elaine's posture crumples, and I feel the tide of justice turning irrevocably in my favor. Records show Marla Lane, ML, the initials taped under my banister spindle, the care home administrator responsible for my involuntary placement inquiries. My breath catches as the judge reads her name, the hidden architect finally unmasked. Detective Hall paces before her, eyes sharp. He lays out emails proving Marla signed off on billing my accounts for months, siphoning my pension into Elaine's pockets. The courtroom smells of stale hallway coffee and anticipation. Marla's lips tremble as she clutches her purse strap. Michelle produces a photograph of the red trip thread in my room, the gentle alarm Marla designed to trap me. The nurse administrator's composure crumbles in two. She swallows hard, voice quivering. "I received kickbacks from Mrs. Langston's daughter-in-law in exchange for smooth admissions." Her confession echoes off the high ceiling, each word a hammer on their fortress of lies. The judge leans forward. I taste dry paper on my tongue as he holds up internal care home ledgers. Micro reveal. Those same books show Marla arranged Miles's funeral paperwork for an old debt, hiding him off books in room 312. Hope presses my hand, tears burning the back of my knuckles. I feel her tremor and steady her with a squeeze. The hush in the gallery feels sacred, as if truth itself has paused to listen. Marla's shoulders sag. She admits the funeral, fraud, naming dates, and amounts. Guilt softens her features momentarily, revealing a woman who made monstrous choices for a promise of security. The judge's gavel raps once, twice. He orders Marla to pay full restitution, complete community service, and bars her from elder care for life. The courtroom exhales in release, disbelief morphing into relief. I rise slowly, voice calm and clear. This story was never just about money or property. It was about stolen dignity, unheard voices, and the right to choose. My words settle over the room like a gentle rain. Linda steps forward, placing the notary logbook on the bench. Its pages flutter as if alive, every forged entry now evidence of Marla's guilt and Elaine's reach. I nod in appreciation at Linda's steadfast courage. Michelle stands beside me, whispering, "One more step, Grace. A press statement. Are you ready to speak for others?" I feel the weight of every elder who feared this fate, their stories echoing in my heart. I close my eyes and inhale the faint tang of toner and polished wood. When I open them, the judge waits for my verdict to the world. My voice steadies, carrying beyond this hall. I will speak for every silenced voice. As cameras click and reporters lean forward, I realize this press statement will decide not only our future, but the future of every elder trapped behind closed doors. Outside on the courthouse steps, microphones bloom like metal flowers under the ocean wind that lifts my hair. I hold the field key aloft, its edges bright in the sun, and begin. It started with my granddaughter's question at the stairwell, "Why don't we ever open that room?" Reporters lean in as I trace the arc from the red thread to the counterbalanced door of room 312. Camera shutters click around me, blending with the salt spray on the breeze. I slip the key into my palm and announce a fund in Miles' name to help elders change locks, check papers, and hire counsel before predators strike. The grit of the granite steps presses through my shoes, reminding me of every hard choice that led here. Victor stands in cuffs behind me, his eyes hollow as he mouths, "I'm sorry." Elaine watches with a stare so cold it could shave skin, and Marla weeps small, loose tears beside her. I take a slow breath, refusing to savor their downfall or let bitterness settle in my chest. Reporters push microphones forward, voices overlapping. "Will you forgive them?" I meet the lens and answer, "Forgiveness doesn't mean giving back the key, it means choosing not to carry their chains." The key glints on my palm like a promise I intend to keep. Hope steps up beside me, tiny shadow against the marble facade. Into a mic, she says, "I asked a question. My Nana answered." Her words hang in the air, a testament to curiosity's power to unlock truth. I lift the field key again and slip it onto a new chain worn around my neck, the metal cool against my throat. Then I add another key, the front door of Harbor House 312, now in my name, to the same chain. Its teeth are unmarked, ready to open rather than imprison. Wind tugs at my coat as I reflect on every locked door that nearly buried me in silence. My voice softens. This key no longer hides secrets. It opens doors for those who fear theirs. A hush ripples through the crowd. A reporter asks, "What advice do you have for viewers watching?" I let the chain rest in my hand and reply, "Listen to the questions around you, children, neighbors, your own heart, and be brave enough to answer them." The sea breeze carries my words seaward. Behind me, Victor lowers his gaze, the weight of his crimes heavy on his shoulders. Elaine's posture slumps, her mask of control shattered at last. Marla turns away, ashamed, as if the wind itself strips her of dignity. I glance at Hope, whose small hand finds mine. Her confidence steadies me. In that silent exchange, I feel the full circle of awakening. Neglect, betrayal, and now empowerment. Reporters draw back, cameras still clicking, waiting for my final line. I lift the chain higher, letting the two keys catch the sunlight together. "Every locked door deserves a key," I say, voice clear and strong, "and every question deserves an answer." As the press scrums break apart, a single set of footsteps approaches. Michelle Tran, holding an envelope stamped with a new date and bearing my name, promising a chapter we have yet to write. Months later, the room, once locked and closed, smells like clean linen and fresh lemon oil. Sunlight stretches across the hardwood in rectangles, dust dancing in each beam. The polished wood under my fingers hums of secrets finally unburied. We keep it open now, no lock needed to guard what's inside. A writing desk holds blank pages begging for new stories, 2 chairs awaiting students, and a framed photo of 3 hands on the same key. Hope's small fingers, Miles's calloused palm, and mine share its curve. Sea breeze sweeps through lace curtains, carrying distant gull cries and salt tang. I sit with a pencil, scratching letters on notebook paper, and feel the mug warm against my palm. The quiet is alive, full of purpose rather than fear. A final micro-reveal waited beneath the banister all along. The other half of the index card reads, "When a child asks, listen." I found it folded in the spindle's hollow and felt its truth pulse in my chest. Each Saturday, I teach free classes here. Elders learning passwords and digital safety, reading deeds, spotting forged loops in their own signatures. We practice together, voices steady and laughter rippling through the open room. Miles volunteers as a tech assistant, his hands gently guiding shaky fingers over screens as he once guided me through hospital halls. Hope brings trays of cookies, sweet crumbs pooling on the desk as she laughs through lessons. I will never lock this door again. Instead, I lock my boundaries with gratitude and clear rules, keeping kindness without yielding to weakness. This room stands as proof that courage can open more than hidden chambers. Children peek in with curiosity now, not fear, eyes bright with the invitation I once denied them. I welcome each question, remembering how one simple ask changed everything. Their trust is its own light. Friendships form here between strangers once isolated by shame or doubt. They share stories of hidden wills and silent betrayals, then trade empowerment in return. Knowledge is blessing, not weapon. My reflection in the window shows a woman reborn from betrayal's ashes, hair streaked with silver and hope. I touch the ring on my finger, once a mark of theft, a new symbol of reclaimed power. At dusk, the desk lamp glows by itself, inviting late-night scribbles and quiet study. Outside, the house breathes easy under twilight's hush, free of old alarms and locked drawers. My final moral turn comes softly. Dignity over revenge, truth without spectacle, a home kept honest, and doors left open to possibility. Every corner of this house echoes that promise. Closing question to you. If a child in your home asked about a door you keep shut, would you open it or wait until someone else finds the key? Thank you for watching Grace's journey from silence to strength. If this story touched your heart or sparked your own courage, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps more voices find their keys and opens new doors for those still waiting to be heard.